What's going to happen to all these brand new vehicles that never sell? You have Dodge Hornets, Jaguar F-Paces, even an F-150 can be $100,000, and it's been a 2023 sitting on the lot. It was actually $124,000. It was a 2023. It's been on the lot 500 days, and it still hasn't sold. What's going to happen? Let's get into it. So dealerships are going through this whole deal because prices went up like crazy. They took full advantage of the customer base just a few years ago, and now they're stuck like Chuck with all this inventory. So what's going to happen? Because you have certain vehicles that just honestly will not sell. But the fact of the matter is, there is a but for every seat. But let's get into if the dealership gets stuck, because the manufacturer sells the vehicle to the dealership, and the dealership is it's their responsibility after that. Unless the whole dealership closes in certain states, the manufacturer would have to buy back all the inventory. But it's extremely rare, and that's only in certain states. So once the manufacturer sells the vehicle to the dealership, it's their responsibility. If they can't sell it, they pay interest on it generally. If they're financing their inventory, which most of them are, then it's going to add up. And they're going to be like, all right, let's pay this off. It's going to take a lot of money, though. An $80,000, $100,000 truck to pay that off, that's a lot of money tied up in that vehicle just sitting there. And it costs them money to tie up that money at the end of the day. So it sits there, they pay it off, it's sitting, it's 500 days. It's 1,000 days. They just can't sell it. It's a 2023, and this is what's happening right now. What are they doing? They're trying spiffs with their salespeople, which is a bonus to get their salespeople to incentivize a customer. They're trying to do this and that, discounts a little bit. But here's the deal. They could have just discounted it when they first got it, and they would have sold it. But they got stuck because they tried to do a markup on all this stuff. So they're going to try to do a discount now, most likely, and if nothing like that works and they can't sell it on their lot, then they're most likely going to take it to auction. And if they can't get a good enough price at auction, the owner might just say, hey, I'll just drive the truck, or they're going to use it as a loaner car or something like that, but most likely they're going to get it sold somewhere, probably just take a huge loss at an auction and just say, hey, it is what it is. We learned our lesson. And it's because dealerships made huge mistakes adding Harley-Davidson packages for $25,000 for a wheels and lift and all this stuff. And of course, it's been sitting. It was a 2022 sitting on the lot in 2024. That is insane. And it's still there, I believe. So it's just like, what are they doing? And I think they're discounting it now, $27,000 or $30,000 off. Now they're discounting it, but it's like, hey, you guys should have done that when it first got here, because you can't, that's just not how you stay in business, keeping these cars. It's almost like some of these dealerships are collecting these things, 2023s all over the place, and before we know it, 2026s will be on the lot. And guess what? I even saw a Dodge Hornet in the wild today. So one of the slowest selling vehicles, someone's buying them, just not me. But again, you're going to get stuck with these Dodge Hornets. Brand new Dodge Hornets, $50,000 SUV that nobody wants to buy. Guess what? The dealer's going to take it to an auction and sell it for probably $25,000 or $30,000. They're going to take such a loss. Some of them even try to move it over to used and try to do it that way. There's so many different things they can do, but at the end of the day, there honestly is a but for every seat. And there's deals. There's people that come into the dealership, unfortunately, all the time. They just say, hey, can you get me done? They sign a credit app. They just say, any car if you can get me done. But normally, those are pretty hard deals to get done, but they used to call them get-me-dones in the dealer world. But at the end of the day, these dealerships are pretty screwed overall. A lot of them, especially the ones that took advantage of their own customer base. Yeah, they bit themselves, so now they're having to pay the price. So it is what it is, and now you know what happens to new cars that are never going to sell. At the end of the day, eventually they will. But if it doesn't sell at the dealership, they're going to send it to auction. And it is what it is, and it depends on where they're at, what state it is. Sometimes they'll do, CarMax has a good auction too they send it to. There's a lot of options, but at the end of the day, it's going to hurt these dealers to keep this inventory for all this time and to tie up all this money, paying off all these vehicles sitting on the lot. And it just is what it is. What were you thinking? And some of them are declining allocations. That's how you know it's getting bad for the dealership, when they tell the manufacturer, hey, we cannot take any more new vehicles. And there are a few dealerships that I've heard of doing that, a Nissan, a GMC, and a Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. I haven't heard of any other dealers in my local area doing that but them, but still, that's a pretty big deal to have them declining allocations, saying we don't want any new cars right now because it can affect them in the future. And guess what? GMC, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, they're like, well, we're not going to give you this. But Dodge, Jeep, and Ram's like, hey, I don't even want the electric Charger anyways. You can keep that stuff. What are they thinking building this kind of stuff that nobody wants, overpriced? It's just a terrible situation. You're going to have all these new vehicles that are never going to get sold at the dealership. That's the key point. They're never going to get sold at the actual dealership. Every vehicle eventually does get sold for the right price in the right place, but it's not going to be at that dealership most likely because eventually, you have at the end of the day, they're just selling debt. And the banks are saying no more often now. And guess what? Customers are as well. People are done with it. Dealerships are screwed. The manufacturers are. They did it to themselves. Let me know what you think. Have a great day and stay blessed.